Bible to y'all. So, as I can see by the title, I'm not sure what day it is, but if y'all don't know, I'm reading The Magic of Thinking Big by David J. Schwartz. Yeah, I'm not gonna really do too much talking. It's currently January 24th at 9 o'clock. And you already know we're gonna put the 15-minute timer on. Let's go ahead and turn it up. Come on, lock in, man. Alright. The psychologist friend mentioned before told me how he helped one of his patients to stop committing mental and spiritual suicide. This patient, he explained, was in her late 30s and had 2 children. In lay terminology, she suffered from severe depression. She looked back on every incident of her life as being an unhappy experience. Her school days, her marriage, and the bearing of her children, the places she had lived, all were thoughts of negativity. She volunteered she couldn't remember ever being truly happy. And since one remembers from the past colors what sees in the future, colors what one sees in the present, she saw nothing but pessimism and darkness. When I asked her what she saw in the picture, which I showed her, she said it looked like there had been a terrible thunderstorm tonight. That was the gloomless interpretation of the picture I've heard yet. The picture was a large oil painting of the sun low in the sky and a jagged, rocky coastline. The painting was very cleverly done and could be construed to either a sunrise or a sunset. The psychologist commented to me that what a person sees in the picture is a clue of his personality. Most people see it as a sunrise, but the depressed, mentally disturbed person nearly always says it's a sunset. As a psychologist, I can't change what already is in a person's mind / memory, but with the patient's cooperation, help the individual to see his past in a different light. That's the general treatment I used on this woman. I worked with her to help her see the joy and pleasure in the past instead of total disappointment. After 6 months, she began to show improvement. At that point, I gave her a very special assignment. Each day, I asked her to think of and write down 3 specific reasons she has to be happy. Then, at her next appointment with me on Thursdays, I go over her list with her. I continued this short treatment for 3 months. Her improvement was very satisfactory. Today, that woman is very well adjusted to her situation. She's positive and certainly as happy as most people. When this woman quit drawing negatives from her memory bank, she was headed towards recovery. Whether the psychological problem is big or little, the cure comes from when one learns to quit drawing negatives from one's memory bank and withdraws positives instead. Don't build mental monsters. Refuse to withdraw the unpleasant thoughts from your memory bank. When you remember situations of any kind, concentrate on the good part of the experience. Forget the bad and bury it. If you find yourself thinking about the negative side, turn your mind off completely. And there is something very significant and very encouraging. Your mind wants you to forget the unpleasant. If you will just cooperate, unpleasant memories will gradually shrivel and the teller in your memory bank will cancel them out. Dr. Melvin S. Hatwick, noted advertising psychologist, in the commenting on our ability to remember, says, when the feeling aroused is pleasure, the advertisement has a better chance to be remembered. When the feeling aroused is unpleasant, the reader or the listener tends to forget the advertisement message. The unpleasant runs counter to what we want, what we don't want, and what we don't want to remember. In brief, it is really easy to forget the unpleasant if we simply refuse to recall it. Withdraw only positive thoughts from your memory bank. Let the others fade away, and your confidence, that feeling of being on top of the world, will zoom upward. You take a big step forward. You take a big step forward toward conquering fear when you refuse to remember negative, self-depreciating thoughts. What do people fear other what do people fear other people? What do many folks feel self-conscious around others? What's behind shyness, and what can we do about it? Fear of other people is a big fear, but there's one way to conquer it. You can conquer fear of people if you will learn to put them in proper perspective. A business friend who was doing exceptionally well operating his own wood novelty plant explained to me how he got the proper perspective of people. His example is interesting. Before I went into the army in World War II, was scared of just about everyone. You just wouldn't believe how shy and timid I was. I felt everyone else was a lot smarter. I worried about my physical and mental inadequacies. I thought I was born to fail. Then by some fortunate quirk of fate, I lost fear of the people in the army. During a part of 1942 and 1943, when the army was inducting men at a terrific clip, I was stationed as a medic at one of the big induction centers. Day after day, I assisted in examining those men. The more I looked at those recruits, the less afraid of people I became. All those men lined up by the hundreds, naked as jaybirds, looked so much alike. Oh sure, they were fat ones, skinny ones, tall ones, and short ones, but they all were confused, all were lonesome. Just a few days before one of these rising young executives, some were farmers, some were salesmen, drifters, blue-collar workers. A few days before, they had been many things, but at the induction center, they were all alike. I figured out such pretty basic back then. I discovered people are alike in many, many more ways than they are different. I discovered the other fellow is pretty much like me. He likes good food, he misses his family and friends, he wants to get ahead, he has problems, he has to relax. So if the other fellow is basically me, there's no point of being afraid of him. Facts. Like, everyone bleeds the same, everyone poops the same, bro. Everyone just looks the same. I mean, everyone just looks different, but everyone's the same in an essential way. Like, bro, now that doesn't make sense. If the other fellow is basically me, there's no reason to be afraid of him. And here's 2 ways to put people in proper perspective. All right, so number 1, get a balanced view of the other fellow. Keep these points in mind when dealing with people. First, the other fellow is important. Empathetically, he is important. Every human being is. But remember this, you are important too. So when you meet another person, make it a policy to think we're just 2 important people sitting down to discuss something of mutual interest and benefit. Facts. A couple months ago, a business executive phoned to me, and he just employed a young man who had recommended to him shortly before. Do you know what really sold me on that fellow? Asked my friend. And I said, what? I asked. Well, it was the way he handled himself. Most job applicants, when they walk in there, are half scared. They give me all the answers what I think they want. They give me all the answers they think I want to hear. In a way, most job applicants are a little like beggars. They accept anything and they aren't particular. But G handled himself differently. He respected me, but what was just important is he respected himself. What's more, he asked as many questions as I asked him. He's no mouse. He's a real man, and he's going to do all right. This mutually important attitude helps you keep the situation balanced. The other fellow does not become important relative to you in your thinking. The other fellow might look frighteningly big, frighteningly important, but remember, he is still a human being with essentially the same interests, desires, and problems as you. And number 2, developed an understanding attitude. People who want figuratively to bite you, growl at you, pick on you, and otherwise chop you down are not rare. And otherwise chop you down are not rare. If you're not prepared for people like that, they can punch big holes in your confidence and make you feel completely defeated. You need a defense against the adult bully, the fellow who likes to throw meager weight around. A few months ago at a reservation desk of Memphis Hotel, that's crazy, of a Memphis hotel, I saw an excellent demonstration of the right way to handle folks like this. It was shortly after 5 p.m. and the hotel was busy registering new guests. The fellow ahead of me gave his name to the clerk in a commanding way. The clerk said, "Yes, sir, Mr. R. We have a fine single for you." "Single," shouted the fellow. "Order a double," the clerk said very politely. "Let me check, sir." He pulled the guest reservation from the file and said, "I'm sorry, sir. Your telegram specified a single. I'd be happy to put you on a double, sir, if we have any available." Tripping. Have had any available, but we do not. Then the irate customer said, "I do not care what that piece of paper says. I want a double." Then he started in that "do you know who I am" bit, followed with "I have you fired. You see, I have you fired." Bro, my phone tripping. See, this you gotta turn the phone off, bro. We reading, bro. As best he could, under the verbal tornado, the young clerk injected, "Sir, we're terribly sorry. We act on your instructions." Finally, the customer, really furious now, said, "I wouldn't stay in the best suite in this blank hotel now that I know how badly managed it is," and stormed out. I stepped up to the desk, thinking to the clerk, who had taken one of the worst public tongue lashings I had ever seen sometime, would be upset. Instead, he greeted with one of the finest "Good evening, sir," I had ever heard. As he went through the routine of processing my room, I said to him, "I certainly admire the way you handled yourself in such just that moment ago. You have a tremendous temper control." "Well, sir," he said, "I can't get mad at a fellow like that. You see, he really isn't mad at me. He was just the scapegoat. The poor fellow may be in trouble with his wife, or business may be off, or he even feels inferior, and that was one of his goals, chance to feel like a will. I'm the guy who gave a chance to get something out of his system," the clerk said. Added, underneath, he's probably a very nice guy. Most folks are. Walking towards the elevators, I caught myself repeating out loud, "Underneath, he's probably a nice guy. Most people are." Remember those 2 short sentences next time someone declares war on you. Hold your fire, and the way to win in situations like this is to let the other fellow blow his stack and then forget it. Several years ago, while checking students' examination papers, I came across one that's especially disturbing. A student who wrote the examination had demonstrated in class discussions and previous tests that he had been far qualified than his paper indicated. He was in fact a fellow who I thought finished at the top of the class. Instead, his paper put him at the bottom. As my customs in some cases, I had my secretary call the student and ask him to come by my office on a very urgent matter. Paul W. appeared shortly. He looked as if he had been in a terrible experience. After he was comfortably seated, I said to him, "What happened, Paul? This isn't the quality paper I expected you to write." Paul struggled with himself, looked in the direction of his feet, and replied, "Sir, after After I saw you had spotted me cheating, I just went to pieces. I couldn't concentrate on anything. Honest, this is the first time I've ever cheated at the university, and I desperately wanted an A, so I worked up a little pony to use. He was terribly upset, but now he was talking. He wouldn't stop. I suppose you'll have to recommend me for dismissal. The university rule says any student found cheating in any manner is subject to a permanent dismissal. Here Paul started bringing up the shame this isn't will bring to his family. Hold on. We're going to read the last page and we're going to be straight out. His family is... saying this would indicate would saying this incident would bring to his family, how it will wreck his life and all sorts of repercussions. Finally, I said, hold it now. Slow down. Let me explain something to you. I didn't see you cheat until you walked in and told me. I hadn't had the faintest idea that was trouble. I am sorry, Paul, that you did. Then I continued, Paul, tell me, what do you want to gain from your university experience? He was a little calmer now, and after a short pause, he said, well, doctor, I think my overall aim is to learn how to live, but I guess I'm failing pretty bad. All right, y'all, so we going to wrap that up. We're going to continue on page 66 tomorrow. So y'all be blessed. Y'all stay encouraged. I'm going to get it with y'all.